Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse KALIBAK, the Dark Side War version. And it's the only KALIBAK we have from them so far, but I want to let you know which one it is in case you can't tell from the front of the packaging. I've always been a big fan of the whole Dark Side, everything, the Apocalypse, all of that. And so I like KALIBAK, and this is actually a surprisingly good release. It's not that surprising because it looked awesome in the photos, and it is mostly awesome. There are a few things they could change definitely to make it better, but there's some really good stuff going on here, and we're going to talk about all of it. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands roughly, we'll just call it 9 inches. There's a little bit of hair above there, but that's not helpful for scale purposes. And we'll say it's about 23 centimeters. That's close enough. All right, here he is up against Darwin. He's a lot taller. He's a whole lot taller. So that's going to make him about 1.4 Darwins, just about. And here he is up against one of the McFarlane Batman toys, so you can see like what one of their average characters is. So he's got some serious height on him there. I think that's a good size. This guy comes in at 42 bucks, and just for some quick comparison against Marvel Select, Beta Ray Bill comes in at 30 bucks. So you can definitely see that there's some argument that it's too expensive, but he is technically a bigger figure. He's much broader, much bulkier, so maybe you could justify it, or maybe it's just that they're dispersing their cost. I don't know. Marvel Select seems to be doing what no other company can with their pricing. Okay, so let's do a quick question of the day. Which version of KALIBAK is your favorite? I do quite like this one. This one might be my favorite, honestly. It's not just because I'm holding it. He's a little bit more serious looking, more angry, more menacing. I don't know, like the DCUC one that came out forever ago. I do like that design. That's more of a classic look for him. I like this one more. I like the hog ring in the nose, the septum piercing as they call it now. And just the overall look, it's very nice. It's got some kind of look to it that is just a little more gritty, I think. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about the aesthetic. There's a lot of nice stuff going on. The thing I think that is the least good, as far as obvious things, is the arms and the legs. The arms and the legs. They're pretty shiny. They're very, very shiny. Nothing on this figure is shiny except for those. The face is a nice matte finish, and it looks wonderful being matte. We'll get to the paint errors in a problem. Wow. Paint errors in a minute. The face, though, nice matte finish. Looks great. Then you have these glossy arms that just look like really, really cheap plastic. Same thing with the legs. So that's a problem. They do sculpt them with a ton of detail. These big guys always have these real textured skin tones. I'm just worthless at words anymore. But he's got all kinds of like nicks and gouges and things in him. I guess it's supposed to look like scars and stuff. Maybe a bit much, but also it's not painted, so it doesn't help. So that would be nice if those were painted. But what is painted is done really well, or at least well enough. You can see the logo carved in here. That looks pretty good. The face is painted really well, other than the yellow that is on his forehead. That's clearly a problem. And then there's some yellow on the cheeks as well. So however they did the painting process, they screwed that up a little bit, but you can see the eyes look wonderful. They did paint the lips and the teeth and the nose ring pretty nicely. Even the yellow thing's painted pretty nicely. It looks pretty darn good until you get that yellow on the forehead. Now, I'm gonna try to remove that and hope that there's not too much paint actually on his face and that it won't make it look too bad. I don't know, I'm kind of scared about that. But yeah, the rest of the paint looks pretty good. We have some different colors of different shades of green. The golds look nice. Those are all molded. It's not perfect, but it's definitely good enough. And I think it looks really nice. The sculpt, by the way, is really good. We already talked about the skin texture, but his outfit is just loaded with texture as well. Bunch of different textures. You can see that looks something kind of like leather. Then you have the lighter green in there with a different texture. The gold has texture, some kind of hex pattern. Obviously the belt has its own pattern. Then we have another pattern down here, a different type of leather, I guess. Another pattern for his trunks. We'll show it from the front. His gloves are textured. Everything is textured. It looks really, really good. I like it. Even his shoulder pad has a few different textures. Really brings it to life. I think the hair sculpt is nice. Yeah. It's pretty darn solid for 42 bucks, $41, whatever it was. It could be a lot better with the arms being painted and not all glossy and just certain things fixed, but it's pretty darn good. So I'm going to give the aesthetic an overall rating of 8 out of 10. The Marvel Select is screwing up a lot of these other companies because for 30 bucks, they're doing what they can't do for more. So that is a problem. Now, as far as accessories go, this guy really only has one, which is this weird club thingy, and it's sculpted well enough, but it is incredibly soft. Look, here, I'll show you. It's really, really soft PVC. Like, I'm not using my man strength to do this. It's just really, really soft. It's not warm. It's just soft. The sculpt isn't soft. It's a nice, sharp sculpt, but it's a very, very soft piece of plastic, and his hands, which you would want to be softer, are hard as heck. I cannot pinch that thumb in at all. So it's a good thing the handle is soft on this because it has to be squished to fit into his hand, but you don't really want flaccid accessories. That's a bit of a bummer. Otherwise, you do get his trading card, collector card, which hardly even shows the character, so that's kind of silly. And then you get his black plastic displaced in, which is worthless. So accessories, I'm just going to go 0 out of 10. It's basically none. The flaccid thing is okay, but it's flaccid. And I'm taking away a spite point for it. Okay, let's talk about the articulation. The head is on a double ball peg, and the bottom ball peg, wonderful. It's nice and big, and we have a tiny skinny peg that's pretty long, which is what you want. You want a skinny long peg and a big ball, and then there's a little ball in the head to help. And it works nicely. Like, you can move his head. If it wasn't for his beard and hair getting in the way, you can definitely pose this guy's head pretty well. I like it. Very pleased with that. Shoulders are on a ball peg, which I guess is supposed to allow range, but there is no range to be had. So there's nothing really in there but the hinge. So you get the hinge, which goes up to horizontal. That's fine. You're going to get your full rotation. That arm seems to be fine. This arm, it rotates fine other than where this is. By the way, this is connected up here, which is super disappointing. When you try to do this, oh, now it's not going to do it. When I first got it out of the package, the whole arm ripped right out. But it does pop back in. But you get decent range still there, so that's pretty good. And bringing it forward, not as much, but it's not too bad, so that's okay. Single jointed elbows are pretty limited. You're not going to get quite 90 degrees even. That's a bit of a bummer. You do get your bicep swivel out of that, which isn't great. And you can tell how little effort they put into their design. They just cut the articulation and don't try to re-sculpt it to look good. You just get a big smooth sphere inside the elbow. That's pretty lazy, pretty disappointing. For the wrists, you just get a swivel and a hinge. There's nowhere for it to go, or it's just, no, it should go. It looks like it should. I can't get the wrist to move. So that wrist doesn't want to move, this one does, but it has just a little bit of range. Neither of these hands really need the articulation, I guess, so that's a good thing that they don't need it, but it is there and it doesn't work, so that sucks. This is nice. It's probably the best diaphragm joint on a McFarlane figure to date. Just a big ball peg. Could be better still, like there's so much more opportunity for him to lean forward, and he still can't really lean forward. He can go back pretty far, side to side nicely, full rotation. Still can't lean forward, and it's a little bit loose, so that's a bummer. It's like I'm trying to be so positive with these figures, and I really like this one, but there's still so many things wrong with them that it's like McFarlane Toys just doesn't care, it seems. Or they're just completely incompetent. Like, I know Todd can draw really well, and he has made really good toys. I'm sure he's not in charge of every single project. Whoever is not doing a good job. It's really unfortunate that whoever's cranking out all these DC figures, they don't seem to care about the figures really too much. It's just so strange, because they're almost all new sculpts too, and then they all have the same problem. Ugh, whatever. Okay, bringing the hips out to the side. Basically splits. That's not bad. I'll take that. I don't think he'll need that much range, but he has it. Bring the leg forward. It does get pretty limited. Got too much going on here, and the pivot point is too high, so you can't bring his leg too far forward. Going back, can't really do that. Can't do a cake rating, so he's going to get a 0 out of 10 for cake. There's no way to rate his cake. Well, I guess you kind of could, but it's not sculpted for the sake of this thing, so I can't really fairly judge his cake. Thigh swivels are better than most, so that's pretty good. I like that. The knees are just like the elbows. They're not horrible in terms of how they look. They did put the wrinkles on there, at least, since it's the front of the figure. I guess on the elbows they figured it was the back, so they didn't need to. So there's a little bit of skin texture, and it looks decent. For that type of joint, it's okay. You do get rotation out of that if you want it, but just a little bit. And then we have the ankles, which are not a ball hinge. They are a fixed hinge, a swivel hinge, if you will. So they go back pretty far. They go forward a little bit. You have a giant toe hinge, which is arguably too far back, but he's got alien feet, so who knows. And then you have an ankle rocker, which is ridiculously steep. Now, the reason it's ridiculously steep is a very, very strange thing. If you look at the knee joint and look at the foot joint, what do you notice? Maybe you don't notice it, but I'll show you. So let's make sure the knee is pretty straight. So this is the leg. Straight line going straight down. And then look where the ankle is. It's off to the side. You can even tell based on the design right here, it's off to the side. It's off by like 15, 20 degrees. Why is that not in line? The ankle joint, the disc needs to be in line with the long bones of the leg so that it works properly. And this one isn't. And the reason it isn't is because this was sculpted in a stance. It was sculpted with the legs apart and the feet out like this. And you can tell because you have this line in the design that runs from here all the way up to the boot. And that is sculpted. That it's in line right now, even though the joint is totally out of place. So they just cut a joint in without knowing what they were doing. You can see how off it is by how obvious this peg is. The pin for the ankle joint is basically facing forward. Or it's not, but it's at a diagonal. You shouldn't be able to see the head of that pin from the front, and you can. So again, whoever's working on these figures is just incompetent. Or it's just a horrible work environment and they're lazy and not having anybody do anything correct. I don't know. But it's a disaster in a lot of ways. So articulation on this guy is pretty not good in a lot of ways. It's okay in some. I'll give it like a 6 for articulation. And now it's time for the final verdict. I personally really like this figure as a collector. As a reviewer, there's stuff going on here that is just absolutely absurd. It's so weird. Do you know how much effort it takes to put texture on the back of an elbow after you cut the joint? Virtually none. Virtually none. Like almost literally zero effort to do that. Even if they don't want to sculpt anything, if they just want to add the texture, just go in and do it manually. It'd take about 3 minutes. They didn't do that. He's got a giant orange or yellow spot on his face. His ankles are totally out of line with his body. His accessory is the softest. It's like super soft PVC. It's softer than any other part of this figure, and he's got soft parts like a skirt. There's just so many weird things. His arms are glossy and unpainted. Also, there's green spots all over the place. I don't know if that's supposed to look like veins or if it's just weird, like they got green bits of plastic in the skin. I don't know what happened. Yeah, this is a good figure that's also horrible. It's so strange. The McFarlane Toys Company is an enigma to me. I just don't know what's going on. And then the head sculpt is wonderful, and it's got a nice flat finish, and half the paint is they're all over the place. That's why this review's all over the place. I don't know what to do with these guys. I'm gonna give this a final rating of 7. I want it to be higher. It's so close to being higher, but as usual, McFarlane Toys takes a figure that's so close to being wonderful and just totally drops the ball. And it's not a budget thing. A budget thing doesn't result in, like, they had to put the ankle in anyway. They had to put it in crooked to save money. No, I'm not gonna buy that. So it's just not good enough. Hopefully they figure things out, because they're so close. So many unique sculpts, so many releases. Make them better. You have to sculpt them from scratch anyway, make them better. I don't know. Okay, I'm done ranting. I don't know what else to do with these guys. This company is so strange. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.